Welcome to Use Your Words podcast, where every time we have a serious conversation, all three of us are always fully engaged and pay attention.
Summer.
And Josh is
Time to
looking
show
around like,
off the summer
what's
vibe.
going on?
I blinked out there for a second. Keep talking. I'll catch up.
You blinked out for a second. Great. Welcome to another episode of Use Your Words podcast. I'm joined once again by Aaron Johnson as well as Josh. I just had my mind blown by realizing what Paul actually does for his work, Brewer, who has decided for whatever reason to look up programming languages and read out to us everyone's
6
first
lines.
beginner program of Hello World. Whenever you learn a new programming language, you always start with Hello World. It's just what we do. It's because it gives you something simple to do. But we're here again. It's at this point, end of June when this comes out, if I believe right, if I counted my calendar. If I didn't count my calendar, it's the beginning of July. Well, I'm sorry. And you can yell at Johnson for that.
Yeah.
So
fair.
I doubt that that's the case. I think Johnson got everything right this time.
What?
I said I think you got everything right this time.
That's what I heard. That's why I'm still reacting that way.
Okay.
Can see how much confidence I have in myself.
Yep. Actually, this would be released the Wednesday after Father's Day, which is the last Wednesday of the month.
Oh my goodness.
So June 24th.
Well, it's like exactly a month from today.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that's where we're at here. So we're still in May at this point when we're recording. So we happy quarantine May, everyone, and hopefully June is less quarantining than May was. And
it will be.
I have a feeling people are going to force that, even if the government doesn't allow it.
Mm-hmm.
If it pleases the court, may I go and have a job? But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today is, surprisingly, in case you haven't noticed a trend this month, this is the month of Aaron, apparently.
What's up?
And I was very surprised with this one. And I don't know why I was surprised. I'm not saying I don't know why you picked it. I'm just saying I don't know why I was surprised, but I was surprised. And what I was surprised by, Aaron goes, well, why don't we talk about vulnerability is weakness? And I had to read that, and I had to write a message back. I was like, assuming you're talking about the position that's really that it's not bad, but is seen as bad by society and is in reality very good. He's like, yeah. I was like,
straight to the point.
clarifying, direct, and wow. Okay. So I was like, okay, so we're going to go there. And I have a bunch of stuff I can contribute to this right out of the gate. But as we have been doing all episodes this month where Aaron has been coming up with the topic at hand, I'm going to, and Aaron already knows what's coming now. It also does something else for me. It gives me a chance for my throat to relax because my throat is kind of sore right now from all this talking this month. You'll understand if you listen to the last episode on what I mean by all the talking I've done this month. And actually, I didn't stumble over my words too much on the last episode, so that was pretty good. I actually learned how to speak English for once.
From the one episode,
Yeah, no, look at that. Anyways, so topic, vulnerability is weakness. Aaron Johnson suggested. So therefore, Aaron, how did this come into your mind? If you're noticing a trend, and don't make this as I'm never going to propose a topic again because this isn't punishment for coming up with the topic.
Yeah.
This is more, I want to have it expounded upon in your words on why you thought of the topic, on why this was important enough for you to say, hey, maybe we should talk about this. And because then that sets the what am I talking? What do I want? That sets the baseline. That sets the baseline for the rest of the conversation, as well as that gives us jumping off points, especially if someone pays attention instead of trying to buy saws or learn how to program while we're doing this, which I had to do over many, many semesters and wasn't just a 5-minute Google search.
I figured it out. I know how to do it now.
No, he doesn't.
No, I don't. So, Johnson, if you want to just kind of give an overview of, if you can remember, what was in your mind at the time, why you kind of came up with this thought process, and just, yeah, go for it.
It just sounded like a cool title. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I am looking for something sharp.
I'm kidding. It just came out of nowhere into my mind one day while working. I just started singing typing. I was like, oh my goodness, my computer's going crazy.
What he's referring to is we're both in the same note page. So he's saying as I type, words pop up on his screen since it's a shared workspace note system.
Magic. But yeah, it just came to my mind while working. Pretty much at work is always a time where I get deep in thought. Think about all the things that are going on in life and all the exciting and all the scary and all the sad and all the me making things bad for myself kind of thing. I don't know. But I don't know. I feel like just, again, I think kind of hit on this on another episode, but like during this quarantine stuff, like I've been learning, I guess, even a little bit more about myself and just being more, just paying more attention to see how I react to things and just like what make me upset, I guess, in ways. But I'm just thinking of, some of the, how do I say this? One, coming across and like confessing kind of like, I don't know, just like stuff that's probably not so right with me going on in the head makes me nervous because that shows that I have issues.
Okay.
Everybody does have issues. And we all struggle with some things, obviously one way or another. But I've always, I don't know, I feel like I hear that, showing that you have problems is just showing that you're just a weak person and that's just worthless kind of thing. And it's like, one, that's upsetting because it's like there's not something that, everybody, again, as I've said, has some kind of problem that they have a hard time with. And if you aren't willing to expose that and show that, there's no way you're going to be able to overcome anything and grow in any manner that. So as I feel like I see it as a negative thing from time to time, or being, like we said, vulnerability being weakness, it's actually, it's a part of growing up and learning and becoming, you could say, stronger. So I don't know. I was just bouncing around in my head one day while working. Yeah, like I said, I've had the thought, and I know I've mentioned this, and I don't remember which podcast, which episode it was now, but talking about, just letting it all out. You know what? This is all the stupid stuff I've done, and I need help.
Yeah, that was 2 ago.
That was 2 ago. Okay.
Do you remember what it was 2 ago?
What was 2? Yeah, judgmental, bad Christian.
Yep.
So I'm not. Besides that, I'm not entirely sure where I was thinking about going with all this. Like, part of my mind was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna spill all these beans and see what the heck happens. But I don't know.
So you're gonna spill the beans now?
I don't know. What beans am I spilling?
I don't
remember.
What beans?
What beans
should you spill?
Well, let me ask this question.
All the beans.
Does being vulnerable necessarily mean you have to spill?
What? What? I mean, if you don't spill, do we know that I'm vulnerable? What? Huh?
So we'll get to that in a second here. Because I'm gonna cut out silence here.
Well, I guess I probably shouldn't read that because then I'll go into
no. These are just notes for points to hit back on. So go on.
Oh man, because it probably was the 2 episodes ago where I was, or maybe it was the first one. I don't know. Where I was talking about, like, I've been becoming more comfortable with sharing struggles that I have or had with newer people. One, because I believe it's important that we share with each other what's going on in our lives. So obviously there can be accountability for anything that's that we're doing wrong and need help with. It's I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm losing it. I had a thought, and now it just left my mind as soon as I said that.
Well, if your thought
But-
comes back,
Because I mean, it was in when we were studying in James, and it saying that we should be confessing to one another about what it is that we've been up to. That's probably not the best of things to do. Well, that we know is not good to do.
right?
So, and that it's come to my attention like how, like once you get one thing down, it's easy to keep. Not always easy, but it's easier to keep. Letting each other know that that's what you're having a hard time with, or if you recently messed up with whatever it is. But then when you notice something new come around, it's like, really, why am I having a hard time with this now? That for me, I think is now something I'm starting to notice. And now it's like there's a new secret thing that I'm afraid to put out there because now there's just another problem. And you know what? Aaron's just full of problems that he's just too much to handle with, to deal with.
Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting episode.
Welcome to my mind. Hi.
Anything else you want to add before?
Nah.
Okay. So we'll be back with the laser focus in a minute here.
Sweet.
Joshy
Josh.
boy. As you notice, there's a structure now going on.
Yep.
Josh, do you want to share your initial rambling thoughts on vulnerability?
Being vulnerable?
Our English is gone today.
So, on this
Vulnerable.
episode of How to Pronounce Vulnerable,
Vulnerable.
okay, we know the word now. Go on.
No, I was just trying to. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't have any thoughts?
I guess what you could call vulnerability is something based on. It's hard to put it. If you're vulnerable, okay, what are you classifying as being vulnerable?
Letting you into my deep secrets that I'm ashamed of admitting struggling with.
Well, why would that make you vulnerable?
Because I'm exposing something that is personal. And
Well-
I'm scared to have people come down on me about it.
Yeah, being vulnerable.
What,
Go
Josh?
on.
Being vulnerable.
Go on.
Okay. All right. So you. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm afraid of being hurt, Josh.
You're
I'm
afraid of being hurt.
Yes.
You're not afraid of
Oh
being
my-
vulnerable. You're afraid of being hurt. So what I'm getting at is what do we really declare as vulnerable or being or vulnerability?
I feel-
What do we really like make it? Like it's like a rock is a rock. It's a piece of earth on the ground, right? Being vulnerable doesn't have like a solid thing to it because you could almost you could paint it any way you want. I'm not afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of what someone else thinks.
So you're afraid of being vulnerable?
No.
Yes. I will disagree with you on that, but I'm going to let you get your point across, and then I will comment like I did last time.
Floor is yours. I feel like we're back to like the first episodes where we have the topic and you're like, so what is this topic?
Well, you have to have something to sprout
Well,
off.
I
Yeah.
know, and this is,
Yeah.
I'm not saying what is the topic. I'm
No,
just saying,
yeah.
I just want his thoughts on it, but
I can't remember. I'm trying to think of like what the topic was,
Yeah.
but it's just like, really, we're going to go there.
maybe in this case we do.
Right. Keep her going, Josh. Keep her going.
If you
I
got
don't
nothing
know.
else, you can say nothing else.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we associate vulnerability with fear. Usually, because usually when you make yourself vulnerable, there is a negative reaction that follows towards you or towards someone else. So if I sit there and I spill my secrets, in this case, okay, if I were to spill my secrets, some of our podcast listeners could stop listening to us. Some of them could shun me if I know them personally.
No, we'd probably get
Okay.
more, to be honest.
Oh my god. Also, there are some secrets I can spill that could make someone else open and, in a sense, vulnerable to harassment or vulnerable for blackmail. Or it could put somebody else in a spot to where now they're vulnerable to the law because now there's truth out there that they could get in trouble for. So we associate it with this exposing, this opening of this this uncertainty that lies behind. That's usually what when I hear someone speak of being vulnerable or vulnerability, that's usually what I see it with. I usually see it with a negative reaction that happens after, whether it does or doesn't happen. We usually associate it. So technically, one could say you don't fear being vulnerable. You fear the reaction after. Being vulnerable is a thought, or it's. I would say this is what I'm saying. I feel that being vulnerable is a state of mind in which you assume there is a negative reaction. Aaron,
Go on.
all right. So
Start at the beginning of that one because that got interrupted big time.
Okay. So Aaron. Okay, so how I'm putting together it in my head right now is that vulnerability and being vulnerable is a point in which our mind associates uncertainties. Okay, you could easily say that I want to be vulnerable to become stronger. I want to see where I'm weak so I know where to build. But usually when we use the phrase, in my experience and the people I've talked to, usually when they say being vulnerable, there's a negative reaction that follows behind, or a level of uncertainty that they can't promise because they're showing their weakness, or something that brings them lower than someone else. So it's a state of mind, in my opinion. You can be vulnerable and be successful. You can be vulnerable and be physically fit. You can be vulnerable and spiritually connected. I think it's just a mind thing.
Anything else?
Take it away, Paul. Oh, it was weird.
That was not planned.
That was not.
Okay. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here. There is a lot to unpack.
You
here.
got this.
Wait. I'm gonna be vulnerable here. I need to go get my helmet on and my chest pad because he's about to start throwing some big punches.
So I
need my rubber ducky too.
I wish there was some video of my facial reactions at some points there during that little Joshian thing. Okay, so we're gonna dissect this one piece at a time. I'm not sure. Do I dissect? I have to respond to Josh's stuff first before I can get to Aaron's stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I don't, there's okay.
Go cluster.
All right, vulnerable. I'm going to take one of the first things you said. We are not afraid of being vulnerable. We are afraid of being hurt. Being vulnerable and being hurt are essentially the same thing, because when we're vulnerable, we're opening ourselves up to the hurt. We're allowing ourselves, the weakest part of ourselves, to be known. You know, when I'm vulnerable, I'm letting maybe those deepest pains be known to someone else and what is going on. Whether that's, I look at it back, when I was dealing with, I shouldn't say was, because that's always a daily thing still, even. But dealing with like depression and that to let people into that life, it's not afraid of being hurt. It's just afraid of letting people know that part of me.
And that's where I was saying more about what they might think.
Right. So so that's why I said they're one and the same, really, because when you have that fear of what people may think of you, it's also at the same time a fear that could ruin the relationship. Okay. Case in point, I'm doing a fictional one here. Let's say I pull Aaron aside one day and go, Aaron, gotta tell you something, man. I need to be real with you.
I wear thongs.
What?
We don't ask you what you do in your house. What you do in your house is between you, your wife,
Amy.
and your dog.
Well, you aren't answering, so I felt like I should answer for you.
We need that fly swatter here.
I'm going to borrow it from Amy.
Yep.
I need the Josh swatter again. Or I need to make a new one.
Make
A bigger one.
Make a new one. Because
Spike.
I have
Do the one
the
that has the zapping.
I have the
effect.
hologram.
He wants to get shot. I'm kind of concerned right now.
Only if I can upgrade it to an electrical outlet.
Aaron, just so you know, when he swats me, I'm gonna somehow reach across with an antenna and tap you so you feel it too.
Nope, just you. Okay.
So you have something to tell me, Paul.
Back up. Okay, so I call you over and say,
Yeah.
I got something to tell you, and I kind of like just pull you to the side. And I tell you, and it could be anything. Could be, I roll up my sleeve and go, look at my arm or what I did, tried, cut myself, cutting
Mhm.
myself or something. I'm letting you know something that is intentionally, for whatever reason, whether that is real or not, there's a feeling of shame associated with it.
Mhm.
People who cut themselves or drug abusers, well, maybe not drug abusers, maybe some, maybe not, but there's that kind of that shame. You don't want anyone to know it. If there was no shame behind it, a person who's cutting themselves wouldn't wear long sleeves all the time and intentionally work to hide it. They'd be wearing the cutoffs going, look at my arms, while they're going through it. But again, that's a symptom of something else going on at the same time, and then you have people who are then like a little self-conscious when they grow up, but you're here or there. But it's that vulnerability is something where it is something that does hurt. It is something that is fearful, because of the fact that it's maybe real personal. It's maybe something you have a secret of. Maybe something you don't want anyone to know because you will get embarrassed. Aaron comes up and says he's a sex worker. Okay. It could be anything like that. Just an embarrassment where you think, because of the people that that what you do or what is going on would be outside the norm of what they expect, and that brings a whole other conversation of expectation, normalizations, and all that. But you're afraid that because you're breaking with the norms and traditions of the social circles that you're in, that you will be ousted essentially, either by ridicule, told, yeah, right, go away now, we can't associate with you, which is horrible. People do that, or any other method. And the thing is, with vulnerability, what happens is when people try to shoulder. That's what I was looking for. Shoulder that pain alone. It actually makes the pain and that heaviness from it worse. Now, I do agree with Josh's statement of, I want to see where I'm weak to get stronger, because vulnerability used correctly can really help. Now, here's the thing. In society right now, in America, we see vulnerabilities as kind of weakness. That why am I showing you what's wrong with me? Why am I telling you this? Why am I letting it hang out there, as they say, wearing heart on your sleeves, the common phrase. Why are you doing that? And that honestly comes from our very individualistic version of life here in America. We always have kind of been individualistic since the founding. We're always a little rebellious. We're always like, take care of our own stuff, do what we need to do, And I think that has been very detrimental. And I can speak to that from experience of how I personally feel how it has been detrimental, where I felt for the longest time I could not share, those various things, whether they be my struggles with porn, my struggles with depression, suicidal tendencies, etc. Those things that I needed, that I felt I had to keep secret in order to be accepted by others, in order for them to think nothing was wrong with me or of me, in order for me to be able to continue to have those things, because they would either show that because, and again, going from a depressed mind here, you're like, why would anyone ever want to kill themselves? What's wrong with them? Why? As kind of you kind of summarize it, showing that you have problems is proving you are weak.
Mm-hmm.
But we all got problems, whether we want to admit it or not. Josh has a problem with his dog learning to not bite him. We all have problems. And Josh is over here going, see, the blows weren't as hard as you were expecting, Josh. I may disagree with you, but I don't think you're an idiot or anything. I just different opinion on some of the things. Whether what you think of yourself is your own thing. But yes, everyone, all three of us could sit here and say, either on or off the record, things we've dealt with, things we've done that we feel shame about. And society as a large will tell you, well, you shouldn't feel shame about these things. You shouldn't feel shame. You should celebrate your whatever you've done, whether that's drug use, idiot day, premarital sex, pornography usage, alcohol usage, whatever. Society will go, do what you want to be happy. But yet there's still that little element of shame that we say, no, we know what's right. We have that conscience. We know what is right and what is wrong in a sense. And sometimes those things, like, you hear it all the time of people who go, I didn't know how to tell my family X. And X could be anything, drug use, abortion, whatever. They're like, because I was afraid of how they would react. They were afraid that if they were vulnerable, showing a person how they really were, even their family that they grew up with, they were afraid of how that family would react. And they were afraid of rejection.
Which I find rather interesting because, when I think about it, I can't believe I said that. And I guess I could say a clear mind now, like having. Well, I remember one time, trying the good old the devil's lettuce for the first time, and I was like, "Yeah, you heard me right, Josh." But I remember
I go home, make you some.
What? No, you won't. But I remember I was like scared to tell my dad that happened.
Yeah.
But then it's like, wait, like he shared with me about, all the stuff he's been in. If anything, he can give me some advice and some wisdom on that whole, I guess, topic or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like, obviously don't think about in the moment of being nervous to, expose myself in that way is, okay, we're related because I'm kind of his kid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he has the same issues. The whole like father, like son type thing comes into
that's
phrase.
A little too realistic, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah. So it's just like, man, it's like, I guess that, unfortunately, there are cases though where, for some people, that's a real thing where they actually have to be afraid.
Yeah.
Because their parent won't deal with it in a proper way. And it'll go to like abuse or just,
Yeah, and in those cases, that's horrible.
Yeah. And so then it's like, yeah, what the heck do you actually do? Obviously, thankfully, there's numbers and like things you can call for help and reach out and stuff like that. But, gosh, there's a couple episodes. Well, this and another episode led me to an NF song. Well, not the same one, but anywho, there's this one song where he was talking about like in his music, a lot of it can be pretty depressing and heavy topics.
Right.
And there was one part in the song where he was talking about how, fans will go up to him and, tell them about all these hard things that they're dealing with in their life. And where it be like abusive parents or whatever. And one of the things he was one that was told that a fan told him was, they struggle with, an abusive dad or something like that. And he beats their mom and, and at the time, that, piss NF off.
Right.
And to the point where it's like, he would want to get his number and call him and, give him a, good taste of his, well, maybe not taste of his mess, but
a piece of his mind.
Yeah. But then he's like, what good will that do? Because then he'll just start beating his wife harder kind of thing. I'm just like, man, with that being the case with some of that stuff, that's
yeah,
that's
awful. I get that part.
So I don't know. Goodness, I totally just went off.
It's okay, Josh.
Thanks.
Both of you are tangent machines sometimes.
No, for real though.
I can't say both. I can say all three.
Today's
all
just
three
one
of
of
us.
those days.
Okay. So yeah, being vulnerable though isn't always about. Let me rephrase that. I'm trying to think how to swing it back after.
Oh, well, yeah, because I mean, yeah, we were talking about. Well, yeah, what was I talking about? Talking about not being afraid to even talk to family, where
Yeah.
that's
Oh
where
yeah,
it's
that's
come
right.
down to, and that's just when well, again, like thinking about it and like mine right now, where I don't have anything that I'd be scared to mention. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, like I said, the whole father like son. I mean, you're blood, related
Right.
in most cases. So, and I wonder about that for obviously for like adopted kids. It's like because they're gonna grow up and have different, just instinctive reactions, wouldn't they? Or is that
That
pretty much just
so that delves into the whole nature versus nurture type of deal.
yeah?
But a lot of that is, if when Josh is triplets, see how Josh treats Amy and how he loves her and how he treats her nice and everything. You know, even if they're adopted triplets, they're going to pick
They're
up
gonna
some
see
of those
that.
mannerisms because they're seeing their dad do that.
Mhm.
I think about our friend Andy.
Mm.
He's adopted, but yet he still has some of the same mannerisms as his
Is
dad.
is yeah.
And he's kept on some of those traditions of that. So that delves into some of that nature versus nurture thing, and there's a lot of things for both sides.
Right. And I wonder also on the other part being, okay, let's say your adoptive parents don't struggle with like let's say depression or anything, but your biological, parents or whatever maybe had a very big problem with that. I wonder how that would
You probably will.
plan.
You might, because some of it is biological, and if it's biological, that can be linked to genetics.
Yeah.
So it's very possible, I will say. Not a
Mhm.
guarantee, but it's
Possible.
possible. And yeah. But yeah, and the thing is, like, if you don't have someone to be vulnerable with, and when I say vulnerable, I mean, think of it this way: open and transparent. And I put that with some caveat. You don't have to be transparent about everything, but that's a person or maybe a group of people that you trust, that you are willing to say, "This is what's really going on in my life." Because you meet someone in the hallway, at work or whatever. What's always kind of the initial reaction? Hey, how you doing?
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Doing fine. Yep.
exactly. And we all do that. That's kind of the standard roll off the tongue. Yeah. We don't go
Oh, I'm having a terrible date.
exactly.
Well, it could be
You
for
could.
some people.
Yeah, but
But
most people you don't go, like, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Oh, yeah,
having a hard time.
I feel conflicted over my use of porn this morning."
Yeah. Oh, I'm
That
sorry.
that's not a normal conversation that
No.
happens.
No.
Brewer's over there like falling asleep.
Huh?
How are you doing, Brewer?
I'm doing fine. Continue talking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. He pays so much attention. Go back to the intro. Perfect intro.
Got him.
Anyways, feel free to talk whenever you want, Brewer. Trust me, it's okay. You can talk.
But I'll be vulnerable.
That's fine.
That's good. We'll teach you.
Being vulnerable is actually strength.
Yeah.
So,
Remember that.
but there's some caveats with this. So,
Yeah, yes, continue.
okay. I love how I said being vulnerable is actually strength. He's like, "Brr." I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's not afraid of being hurt. So, but this, like I was going back to originally. So this modern notion that being vulnerable means you're weak. I really think honestly in the U.S. it comes from that individualistic approach we've had for the longest time, where we need to take care of our own problems. And if
Mhm.
I clue either one of you in on what my problems are, where they be depression, suicide, like I was saying earlier, that means I can't take care of myself. And in an individualistic society where the core concept is to take care of yourself, and the fact that you have to rely on others to help you, in an American sense, you failed because you're not able to pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. You're not able to dust yourself off and continue on with the process of whatever it may be. I got to wait and I gotta rely on Johnson to give me help instead. I gotta wait and rely on Brewer to give me help, on Andy, Pastor Dave, whomever. And we really lost that sense of community when we do that. This month has been had a little more of that spiritual bent to everything, which is fine by me. I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, whatever, that's good. Literally, I have no complaints about it at all. But part of the concept of community in the Christian church is that we are there for one another when things are going hayward. Now, that doesn't mean just because you're in community doesn't mean everyone needs to know everyone's business. There are still going to be people within that community that maybe you have that deeper relationship with, which you can be vulnerable with. I can have a deeper and more vulnerable relationship with like you and Josh than maybe, other people. That doesn't mean I keep them out of my life or anything, but we're still all there, and if some prime example, and yes, I know I'm good with Andy and all that too, so it's not like you like went out and broke trust or anything. So but prime example, when I was really struggling with depression and you went to Andy, it's like, I don't know what to do. Help. Prime example,
Right.
You didn't necessarily have to loop him in on everything, but you looped him in enough. But you also knew that I trusted the person enough because we were in community. We knew each other.
Right.
We interacted often. So it wasn't this big old surprise like Andy's involved. What?
Why do you know my problems?
It's like, okay. And it shows that you all cared. Now, at the time, did I truly appreciate that and everything? No. It kind of hurt, but at the same time, I was also in a very bad spot, to be honest. And it felt horrible having to rely on other people for help.
Right.
It felt horrible having to say, I can't help myself with this. I gotta rely on Andy to try to do something for me, on Aaron, on Josh, on Pastor Dave. Josh didn't know what was going on, but I just wanted to throw Josh's name out there. He didn't even know I was in the hospital at the time, but
this is true.
But to be fair, that's not on you at all, Josh.
No,
that isn't.
It's on me.
That was definitely, you had no idea on that I was that bad, but
right.
And so I don't have any like Josh should have known if he cared.
If you really
none
cared
of that.
about me as a friend, you would know about me.
No, that's a bunch of bull.
What are you giving me that look for?
Things happen and that's fine. That happened. But where I was going with that is that, during that vulnerability time where it's like, I had to be vulnerable to you guys who were trying to help me. I had to be transparent in order for you to get the correct type of help. And that was hard because I had to let you guys into the secret of how my mind was working and how it wasn't working. In both ways, how it wasn't working. And that was like, it's like pulling back the curtain on your favorite movie or your favorite song. You hear this song or you watch this movie that you love. You see it in its polished form, but you pull back that curtain and you see all the little pieces and how they fit together and how things were tough and difficult and didn't mesh right at first. And the challenges that were involved in getting these things to work. You saw the conflict, you see the disarray, the rushing to get everything together. You see the behind the scenes. It's not always pretty. What you see in the final product is a pretty polished product. It has maybe some of your favorite vocals. But seeing the behind the scenes of how it's made, you're like, really?
Oh.
that this came from that? How? And
Magic of a producer.
And it's the same thing with people. We put on this nice, polished show for everyone in the world to see. Aaron acts confident. Josh acts Joshian. I'm trying to figure out. I'm just like trying to figure out. Wait, Josh. I'm trying to imagine how Josh would act at work. Sometimes I'm not sure. That's why I said Joshian. He's Josh. But we put on these polished acts wherever we go when we're out in public. But then when we're home, alone, where no one can see us, we're the real us. And that real us may not be a happy-go-lucky, polished person. It may be a very ugly mess. And being vulnerable means allowing others into that mess with us, allowing them to see the behind the scenes making of who we are when we step foot outside our house. And that's rough because once you see that, you can never unsee it. Once I know what makes Josh tick in his head, that can never be unseen. And that's hard for the person who's seeing it as well as the person being seen because he can't hide anymore. I can't hide anymore. No one who is vulnerable can hide anymore. They can hide new things. Fine, sure. But existing things, that's going to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary. One of the scariest things in the world, especially for Aaron, is, and I'm not saying is to be intimate with someone. And I'm not saying intimate like in the bedroom intimate. I'm saying and that's scary for all of us. Josh, when you started dating Amy, when you guys were getting close to when you were close to proposing and all that, I'm sure through that entire time, when you're getting to know her, there are probably some, and you don't have to expound upon any of them, but there are probably some, rough conversations where you had to get to really know each other, where you got to know each other intimately and know kind of a little bit more behind the curtains how each other worked.
Yeah, no, maybe so.
Head nods don't translate into.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So, I mean, and that is involved in a relationship. You have to be intimate. You have to be vulnerable. You can't put on that facade 24/7 around someone that you are saying, I'm going to live the rest of my life. And before Amy, you had a girlfriend before that, that was hard too when that came to an end, and you chose to be vulnerable when I saw you that day.
Mm-hmm. Paul needed to get a dryer t-shirt. That's all I can say.
But I mean, you didn't have to keep the facade up.
Nope.
You chose to let me in on what was going on really behind that trying to keep it together tough guy attitude that all guys tend to have. And especially guys, for whatever reason, we're afraid to be vulnerable. We're afraid to seem like we need someone else. Nah, I got that. No problem at all. I can handle whatever comes my way. And then you find out they died because they didn't know how to use a table saw. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say because we're supposed to be the providers. We're the guys taking charge and making things happen.
Sure,
we should be able to handle and know what we're supposed to do. We're men.
Yeah, we're men, and men are dying because of the fact that we think we can handle everything.
Right.
We're dying not only through suicide but through medical because we think, oh, I don't need to go to the doctor. There's higher rates of men who have very preventable and treatable medical issues because they don't go for their annual physicals or anything else like that. They let it just go on. Now, that's not being vulnerable. That's just stupidity as men. And I'm admitted that. I've had some of that too in my younger days too. Where it's like, I don't need to do that.
I'll be fine.
But being vulnerable is one of the hardest things in the world. Now, one of the things that Aaron kind of mentioned was, was it like spilling the beans?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll say this about that. Being vulnerable does not mean just going up to a stranger and spilling the beans.
Oh, no, yeah.
So I just want to put some constraints on that. There have to be boundaries there. And the most important piece, trust.
I trust everybody.
No, I was more waiting on to get done.
Oh, okay.
But trust has to be there, and it has to be earned over time. It's not an immediate, because I doubt the first time you met Josh, there was immediate trust and immediate, here's everything. It took time. It took a relationship.
Well, we were in kindergarten, so he really didn't have much of a life before that. Nothing really could happen.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like even you said, with Amy, it took time. It took those conversations where you each were honest and real with each other and how you felt.
It was funny. We were actually kind of at that point before we started dating. So,
well, that's kicks it off.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what does kick it off. But that's good that you have those conversations, especially now it's your husband and wife. You know, A husband and wife that doesn't have this conversation is going to have some very hard issues going on later on
It
down the
becomes
road.
very awkward.
Yeah, exactly. You need to know what's going on in each other's minds, even if you don't know exactly where each other is at that certain point in time. But you have to. That's the problem of vulnerability. Seeing we don't like exposing ourselves.
Mm-mm.
You know, even as humans, we're always like, unless you're certain people, you're always you hate being naked
Yeah.
for the most part. And we don't like people being naked out in this public.
Yeah.
We're like,
No.
we're like, be decent, cover up.
Modest.
So we do that physically as well as mentally.
Hmm.
And we have to kind of, it's a different way of thinking about how do we expose that part of us that mentally, emotionally, that is messed up to others. And here's the crazy part, and this is always the part that gets me. There's always seems to be like more fear when going into it
Then coming at
than like our brains will just take a worst case scenario and add it onto it and just say, I'm going to tell Aaron about my porn usage, and Aaron's going to, you know, that's what happened because we're scared. We're afraid of rejection. And to be fair, we are very social creatures. So rejection does hurt. So I've been talking for a while. So either of you have comments?
It does. Goodness. We can go back on all the fun conversations we've had in our past.
Yeah, some most not recorded, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, some definitely for the better.
I can think of topics breached by each of us.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously not recorded, thankfully.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I mean this one's definitely been talked about on here, but the whole Madison Day. Oh, Aaron, stop it. The whole Madison night.
Okay.
Getting messed up. Yeah.
Messed up is understatement.
Yeah, getting very, very drunk. And oh man. Yeah, I did not want to talk about that at all, especially to you. Because I was like, shoot. Well, obviously in the mind, I'm just like, man, I'm going to tell him, like, you're a freaking idiot. Get out of here. And I was just like, I don't want to go through it. I don't want to just, you could say, open that can of worms. But, I mean, the same time, for me, for like where I was at, I mean, playing in church and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was also just eating me up right away, was knowing I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I'm participating in this, but at the moment, it's not really in me, I guess, you know? So it's like, I shouldn't be up there, you know, playing worship tunes and then going out and getting slammed the next weekend, which, I mean, this was the one time. It wasn't an every weekend thing, but just that was going on. It's just like, that was starting to eat up a lot more. When that Madison night happened, I was like, well, was starting to kind of take myself away from things. And then that whole conversation happened. And after all that conversation stuff happened, I was like, now I'm getting help. And this is great. So it's like, yeah, it's always, that's the thing that sucks, because it's always such an easy thing to have a negative mindset when you think about being vulnerable and putting that kind of stuff out there. Because it's like, obviously, yeah, nobody wants to admit they have problems, but then if you never admit that you have problems, then like pretty much I think I said near the beginning, is you're never going to get help from it.
Right.
And then you're just going to let yourself just deteriorate pretty much and just become a mess, which nobody wants to go through. At least I'd hope not.
You never know. There might be some weird people that.
Well, and that's the thing. I guess, because then I had shared with you guys, I don't know, was it a week or two ago? But like for a little while, it's always usually Monday and Tuesday. The first 2 days of the work week are always can be kind of rough mentally.
Right.
And then, I mean, a big part that has an impact on that is sometimes it's just not getting enough rest over the weekend or just throughout the week. It's crazy to see how big of a part that can play. And then it's just either, screwing up with something and just having that in the forefront of your mind, just thinking of, I guess for me personally, just like kind of like a screw up kind of thing. And then for like a day or two, or I don't know, sometimes it can be more than that. It's just like eating yourself up, beating yourself up. And then comes in the whole like wanting to isolate whole thing. And then I'll get like that for a while. And I'll feel like, yeah, I was like, this time, just cutting it. We're done. And then I get a message out of nowhere from someone. And like, I think, a friend had texted me in the morning just seeing how I was doing. He's just like, what is that? He's like, anything that I can, be in prayer for you on. I was just like, what the heck? It's like, well, you picked a great time to ask that question.
Yep.
So then that just caused everything to open. And then just, I guess, having him open up to me about things that he's going through. I'm like, it's like, well, clearly I'm not the only guy going through stuff. And I know I'm not. But it's just my mind loves to tell me that just there's something different about me and it's just going to end up worse. In my case, like all these other people, they've come out, got help, and do good. But me,
Well, yeah,
it can't help. It can't happen.
Yeah, that's interesting because we always believe we're the only ones screwing up in that way.
Yeah, that just can't overcome it.
Yeah, we always believe we're the ones that are the screw up. Everyone else has their life together. To be frank and honest, I'm just about to turn 37. I will be 37 by the time this is released.
Mm-hmm.
I screw up all the time. My life is not perfect. My life is not my life is not a bed of roses.
No,
it's the fertilizer under the bed of roses. Sometimes,
yeah,
there are good days, there are bad days,
right?
And that's a lie that we all tell ourselves.
Yeah,
that I'm the only one that's screwing this up. Everyone else has got it together, and that's the same with everything. Be that career, be that what we struggle with, spiritually or not, be that how we learn, our opinions on things, how we interact with people. We always fear that the other person on the other side is either got it all together, they're smarter than us, they know what they're doing, they are highly skilled, and we should just shut up and not let ourselves talk because they are one. But we forget. All of us start out somewhere. We all learn. There's this thing called the birth rate. There's always going to be someone who is behind us in our knowledge, in our opinions, in our skill set, in our struggles. There's always going to be someone ahead of us in our knowledge, our opinions, skill set, struggles. There are going to be people who do struggle with things that I don't, and there are going to be things that I struggle with that other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this human dynamic, and that's what makes it so. I think that does play into it. What makes it so hard is you convince yourself with a lie that no one else is struggling with this, just me.
Or at least, that, or maybe, I don't know. They're able to either overcome it, but me maybe not so much.
Right. Having some doubt even in your own abilities on things. And that's not the case. Because guess what? All of us are in that same boat together.
Mm-hmm.
All of us deal with our own insecurities, our own doubts. We're all scared to let other people know what we're really thinking inside, what's really making us tick, what's really making us afraid, what's really making us do what we do. We're not as unique as we think we are.
Yeah, for real though. I feel like that is a big thing that gets preached. Like, we're all our own special, beautiful, individual
snowflake. Yeah. And you know what? In this case, that's a good reminder and a good thing. Now, we all are unique,
Yeah.
Josh has his things, I have my things, you have your things. We're all unique in that way, but we're not all unique in that shared human experience, that shared human fear of wanting and needing acceptance of others and fearing rejection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And always, like, whenever I finally get to that point of either one, letting it out, crazy the amount of relief that normally comes after that.
Right. Yeah. Because you're holding it aside and it's eating you up, whatever, if you're doing that.
It's, I mean, I'm sure there has been times where either I've opened up about something and then it's backfired, but
we've all had
more
those.
often than not, it's like, why didn't I just do this sooner?
Yeah, we've all had those. Now, I'm not calling you fat, but you're like a cow.
Yeah, true.
What does a cow do with their food?
Freaking eat it.
Yeah, but what do they do? How do they eat? They eat it, they swallow it, they regurgitate it, eat it, and repeat.
Oh,
they ruminate.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We do that with our own fears. We ruminate. We chew on it. We never really digest it. We just keep regurgitating it and eating it some more.
That's
the same fear. That's what I said. I'm not calling you fat. I'm calling you like a cow and how you're eating.
Just keeps coming back up.
Well, to be fair, cows have multiple stomachs.
I said they have 4. Yeah, freaking. Wish I had that kind of room.
So I mean, whoa! I think Josh is going to respond because his head shot up finally.
Like,
what? Have you ever seen the inside
of a
cow's stomach while it's actually working?
I have not.
It's the weirdest thing.
I'll have to look it up.
The stuff comes right in, and then it like a vacuum gets sucked right out.
What?
What they'll do is with a sick cow, if the cow stops being able to produce milk, they either kill it or they use it for science. Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll cut a hole in one of its stomachs and make it so you can reach in and grab it.
Yeah.
And you can test the fluid, you can test how the cow processes it, and it kind of keeps it from getting slaughtered, but eventually gets slaughtered.
You get a little porthole into the cow's stomach while it's alive. Gross. Can you imagine that? Someone's able to reach into your stomach while you're alive, Johnson?
No.
And feel around inside and tickle you from the inside out?
No.
Whoa. Man, all the hair on him. I'm watching the hair in your arms just stick right out.
What? Oh, no.
Imagine you had the hole in your stomach and someone's like, I want to run an experiment and put a spider inside your stomach and like crawl around inside your stomach.
I'm going to have the worst nightmares tonight.
Wait. And it climbs up towards the opening of the esophagus. And as he releases a burp, at this point, you can't release a burp because you got a hole in your stomach.
Oh,
they could seal it.
Yeah, we could seal it and we could pump air in there, opening up the esophagus so that the spider could climb up.
Then he burps out spider.
I hate you. Why did I come here today? I knew I was too tired for this today.
Tell us how you really feel, Aaron. Be vulnerable with us.
Sick of it. You know what?
I'm sorry I took it down that tangent.
That was wild.
But I'm also grateful. That was one of the tangents I was actually grateful for. I don't think I'll include that in the episode, but
it'll just be some like random side thing.
Oh yeah, that might be like a short little clip on the side.
Yeah.
But
wow.
Back to the topic at hand after that. So yeah, I mean, being vulnerable like that, like I said, when we have that fear in that, we do that. We just kind of regurgitate it and ruminate on it. Which, like you said, is kind of one of the most disgusting ways to think about it, but it's also very real because we're always kind of, it's the same thing. It's nothing new.
Nope.
And we willfully just keep coming back to it over and over again.
Oh yeah.
And what's fun is, fun in quotes, when you're vulnerable, when you're open to someone else, again, it has to be someone you trust. But when you're vulnerable to someone else, you let them see inside. They let you see into that porthole of your stomach as you ruminate, and they get to really just kind of reach in and pull that gunk out. If you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Because now you're no longer just regurgitating the same thing and chewing on it. You're not ruminating on it. It has now been removed from the equation. Now, you still have to deal with it. That object is still there.
Right.
But you're not dealing with it alone.
Mm-mm. Which,
yes.
I always find it funny how, I feel like people love songs about coming together and all the whole idea of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's a point where it's like, okay, maybe that's too personal. And then they don't want to help out anymore kind of thing. And that's I don't know. I find that funny because obviously so many people struggle with things. I mean, especially with everything that's going on now and just people
Yeah.
not being able to get out and get help. But it's like, people love songs about coming together and stuff like that and, helping each other out. But it's like, it seems like it's at your convenience.
Yeah, it's at your convenience, and you feel good. You're at a concert together. We're coming together.
Yeah.
But you're not coming together to actually share what's going on. You're
No.
coming together to just, we're here at a concert. We
Right.
dance.
We're having fun.
You're not coming together of, a small group rallying around someone who's going through drug addiction
Right.
or alcoholism or anything like that. You're not coming together like that.
Mhm.
That does happen, but I say it's rarer that it happens than not. That's sad.
It is.
And me personally, that's one of the reasons why I kind of like small churches as well, is because you get to know the people. And some people like bigger churches because they can just get lost in that crowd. In the smaller churches, you can actually build that community.
Right.
And that opens the opportunity then to have these conversations where people can be vulnerable without feeling awkward. You're not sitting in a group of 30, 40, 50 people in a small group
Right.
wanting to say something. You're sitting maybe 5 of you, or maybe you're just over for dinner, and you can have those real conversations.
Mm.
But everyone's different on how they approach it. And you kind of have to know how you approach it. But there are some universal things about smaller groups that make it easier to do it, And there are some easy things that just small groups just make it easy. When I say small groups, I'm not saying like a small group like a Bible study. I'm talking like 5 or less people.
Mm-hmm.
It instantly creates that intimacy because it's just you there. It's not you and the world. It's not you and there are 20 strangers and maybe 3 other people that joined you for that week as they're trying out the group. Whatever that group may be, whether it's religious or not.
Yeah.
And it's easier then to get to know one another, what your passions are, what your struggles are, what your victories are, what your failures are, who's sick, who's dealing with things. We lose some of that sometimes. We like to go for the big, flashy things. We're like, it's wonderful. And I'm not making any attacks on you, Johnson, with other stuff that we've talked about earlier. I'm not saying this at you and be like, yeah. Johnson. Da, da, da. I'm saying in general, we us as humans, we're attracted to the shinies, the things that grab our attention and entertain us, and they're good as a nice little distraction for a little while. We love our distractions in America. We love our movies, our music, our concerts, everything else, our sports. They're shinies.
Mm-hmm.
To remove those shinies,
I'm gonna go crazy.
Well, we already are in Corona land.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you remove those shinies though, and people don't know what to do.
Nope. We got nothing left to distract.
They sit there and they're like, I'm bored. What do I do? And then you have a rash of people who don't know how to interact with other people. Honestly, right now, if the internet died in America, people wouldn't know how to function.
Nope.
We would have so much chaos.
It would be madness.
And the thing is, that's just one little component of our life. But people who have community, who are willing to be vulnerable with each other, it's going to be an inconvenience when all electricity disappears and the internet's gone and everything. But they'll have some sorts of stability as well on who to go to. They can't call if there's no electricity, but they could ride their bike over to to their house and be like, look, I'm dealing with this. And honestly, in all reality, that other person's probably dealing with the same exact issues and fears.
Right.
And like you pointed out, sometimes we're just so dumb that we think we're the only ones who deal with everything.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get out of that mindset.
For real, though. I do have to say, for whatever reason, I'm limited to just riding a bicycle to go somewhere to talk to somebody. It's going to be really hard to make it to your place.
I know. It would be really hard to get from my place to someone else. I'd be like, it's not that far, really, but it's far.
It'll take time on a bicycle.
It's 30 minutes by car, so it will definitely take time on bicycle.
Yeah.
But anything else to end with, Mr. Johnson? Brewer, start thinking because you're gonna get last word.
No. I mean, honestly, did you pretty much everything you just said summed it up. I mean, obviously, none of us are really alone. We can all have our own little different struggles, but best believe that someone's going through the same thing just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, you can just find that friendship and building that to be able to trust each other enough to be able to help each other out with something like wherever it may be that you need help with.
Right.
And yeah, I guess, yeah, as scary as it may seem, don't hold it all on the inside. Get it out and find out that, there's people there to help you. And then you can go on the journey together and see how you both, grow up and get past it. And it's a great, cool thing to celebrate once you start to see the other side come along and get past it.
Agreed.
About
Cool.
all I got.
All right. Mr. Brewer, do you have anything you would like to say and end with?
And
I am giving you last word, so even if you disagree with me, you are free to do whatever you talk about.
He's got to make sure he gets this last saw.
I probably have to say, being vulnerable takes courage. And those of you who choose not to be vulnerable, in Aaron's case, is very good because he said that when he's found himself becoming vulnerable, he's found himself being more relieved. And by being vulnerable, what he's doing is he's not only exposing himself, but at the same time, he's helping someone else realize, hey, this dude is being real with me. So when you're vulnerable, you also help to create closer relationships. You help to build bridges with people you never thought you'd be building a bridge with. And being vulnerable also allows you to know more about yourself. For those of you who don't know what it's like to be vulnerable, imagine not worrying about things. Imagine not thinking about certain things. Go back to that time to where you weren't worrying about this thing that you have on your chest or this thing you have in the back of your head. And I'll think as if it just suddenly disappeared. Now, it doesn't necessarily, not in everybody's case, I'm saying it's just going to suddenly disappear, but it's like when you go for a long day, you're working, you're on your feet, and you get home and you just relax and you sit in that couch. You just got that release to where you're not supporting your own weight anymore. Now a couch or a bed is supporting your weight. It's kind of like that when you allow yourself to be vulnerable. Now there are definitely times to where someone stabs you in the back and betrays you, or
Woo.
who stabs you in the back. There are those, but you'll find yourself, especially if you surround yourself with the right people, that being vulnerable has more positive outcomes than negative. Because as Paul was saying, and specifically in the church, people don't realize that there are so many people in the same room struggling with the same things. And we're not talking about an action that they have done. Maybe it's something they've seen. Maybe it's something they've been through. And we're really very similar. Now, are there the little different intricacies and different details? Yes, of course. But generally speaking, we are usually very similar to the person sitting next to you in your pew or sitting next to you in your classroom, or your best friend that you've always hang out with, and you guys have never really sat down and just talked and told each other things you haven't told other people. Being vulnerable takes courage, but being vulnerable builds relationships. Nobody said it was easy, because if it was easy, everybody would do it. And if it was easy, then your life would be feeling always relieved. Hang on. I got something brewing here. This is where you're going to fast forward it here,
That's where it cuts.
Yes, cut.
It's okay. Go on. Okay, I'm building my ultimate desktop while I wait.
Nice.
It's already up to $56,000.
There's this quote from a website, medium.com. It says, vulnerability is not winning or losing, having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome.
I had that upside up too.
Oh,
Did you really?
Yeah. As I was like, start reading, I'm like, I know where this is.
Nice.
This was actually on the page.
That's awesome.
I'm like,
All right. Let's see. I don't know your address, Paul, but
Oh, you can trying to figure out how long it takes.
your address?